PJTV, which you can find at pjtv.com. It is the premier source of conservative broadcasting on the internet. He's hosted shows called Trifecta, Afterburner, National Security Review, and Middle East Updated. He's also created a 7-segment What We Believe video series that has been widely hailed as a complete civics lesson on conservatism. Without further ado, Bill Whittle. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hey. Look at all these people. I don't think there's so many Republicans or conservatives in California. It's great to see all of you, and I especially would like to start tonight by thanking Janet out there. She can't see me, she's listening to me on the radio. You know, it's a really important thing to do, these Tea Party movements, but to open your house, your own house, and let people in to do that, Janet, I know that means the world to me and to everybody else. And the nice thing about opening your house to conservatives as opposed to, let's say, for a liberal political gathering is with conservatives, you're not going to have to count the spoons afterwards, so it's kind of nice to be on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. I want to open with a quick little joke that gets an uproarious laugh everywhere I talk to. I talk to Tea Party movements across the country. It's getting a huge laugh all across the rest of the country. It's going to completely bomb here. It's not going to make any sense to you guys. But usually when I talk to a Tea Party event in Phoenix or in Minneapolis or something, I'll say, hey, it's really great to be here. I just got on a plane from Los Angeles, and I can't tell you how much I enjoy coming to the United States of America. I was raised in America. It's really a pleasure to come visit, and it really means the world to me. Well, good for you. A lot of people aren't from here, I can tell. The reason that so many people in the rest of the country find that funny is because California is perceived to be apart from America in so many ways. And coming to this event here in the heart of Los Angeles just gives me so much hope that that's fundamentally not true. I didn't know what was mentioned earlier, what Lydia said, or I'm sorry, who said earlier that there were more Republicans in LA County than any other place in the world. That's remarkable. That's a remarkable statistic. You know, the left has been able to do what they've been able to do for so long because they've been completely unopposed. And this Tea Party thing is absolutely baffles them. It absolutely baffles them. They constantly, daily, it's been around for 2 years, they're constantly asking, who's organizing this? Where is the information coming from? How are the Koch brothers writing their checks to everybody who came over? Where were the checks dispersed that got you here? They can't understand it because it's real. And that is a very, very remarkable thing. So what I wanted to do tonight, just real briefly, was to give you an idea of how much trouble we're in, give you some idea of how we got to be in this much trouble, give you some ideas about what we actually believe, what we believe as conservatives, especially Tea Party conservatives, and then give you some idea of what we can do about this trouble. Because, look, the fact of the matter is these people who are trying to destroy the idea of this country have been tremendously successful. And they've been tremendously successful because for 40 years now, 50 years now, they have made it their mission every day to get their political way. And they do it every day, and they do it in small ways, and we'll talk about some of what they did in a minute. And it's going to take a long time to get it back, but we will get it back. And mark my words, we're going to whip these Marxists out of their boots. They have no idea what's coming. They have no idea. I was watching Rick Santelli live. I was at PJTV, and we have a bunch of TV screens up, and he was saying, you know what, man, we need to do something about this spending. We need another Tea Party, and all the brokers in the back start cheering. And I was sitting there watching it live. I thought, you know, that's about right. And here we are. So, you know, we are in a war of ideas, and since we're in a war of ideas, the fact that you're here tonight means that you're soldiers. You feel strongly enough about your country to take an evening out and come here and talk. So if it's a war of ideas, we got to ammo up. We need to ammo up real fast. We need to get some serious artillery on this target. We need to bring some ammo to the front lines. So my job tonight is to give you some ammunition in terms of how we convince other people about what we believe, and how we understand what's happened to this country that we all love so much, and how we can understand it. We can figure out a way to get it back, or at least get it more in line with the values that got it started. So I'd like to start a little bit just by telling you just how bad things are. With a little item up from the news today, I always do this, it's always Daily's News, and I'm never hurting for news stories to scare the living daylights out of everybody who loves this country. Earlier today I talked about a situation with Boeing. I'm a pilot, I wanted to be a fighter pilot really, really badly. And as you know, Southern California is big on aerospace, so Boeing was based in Seattle forever, and then they moved to Illinois because of labor relation problems. And what we found out today was or in the last day or two, is that there is an unelected representative. He was a recess appointment. It hasn't even been confirmed by the Senate because Barack Obama appointed him while the Senate wasn't in session. One man filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board that has prevented Boeing from occupying a $2 billion factory that they've already put in South Carolina. And the reason that they did that was because South Carolina is a right-to-work state. Now, first of all, let me tell you something. The term right-to-work state is un-American. It's an un-American idea. What do you mean you have a right to work in that state? You should have a right to work in every state. I have nothing personally against unions. If you're in an occupation and you think unions do you good, then you should voluntarily be able to join a union and gain the benefits. But when an entire state is just locked out, if you can't work unless you're in the union, that's wrong, that's un-American, and this is the kind of influence that these people use. They use the law to get what they want politically. So Boeing, which is really the only remaining jewel in our manufacturing crown, which once was the crown of the world, is now in a situation where they cannot make money building jetliners in Seattle, so they moved to Illinois. And they can't do it in Illinois, so they try to go to South Carolina, and one man, unelected, stops this bid and says, no, you can't work with non-union labor. It's against the law. We're going to make it against the law. If that passes, then we do not live in a free country anymore. It should scare the bejesus out of me. It makes me weep. It embarrasses me. It leaves me ashamed and annoyed and angry.
They'll just go offshore.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what they will do. Eventually, if Boeing cannot afford to make jetliners in South Carolina, they'll make them in Mumbai, or they'll make them in Rio de Janeiro. Exactly. That's exactly right. So we have got to understand what's going on here, and we have got to figure out a way to get this country back. And the fact that you're here means that you guys are the shock troops, and you guys are SEAL Team 6 is what you are. You guys are SEAL Team 6 in terms of getting this country back. I want to spend a little bit of time telling you how we got here, and then I'll tell you most of my talk is going to be about these elements that we believe that we think are important that we have in common. You know, these Marxists are convinced, they've been convinced since Marx wrote about Marxism, that Marxism is science. It's science to them. It's like gravity. It's like thermodynamics. A Marxist believes that the flow of history is scientific. It's inevitable. And so what happened was, right around the turn of the century, when Marx started writing about communism, Marx predicted that communism would come to highly developed industrial societies. That's where he said the revolution is going to come from. The workers are going to rise up and they're going to take over industrialized societies like England and Germany and France and America. Well, here came the big communist revolution, and it didn't happen in any of those countries. It happened in Russia, which is a backwoods agrarian country 300 years behind Europe when communism came to Russia in 1917. And so, okay, well, they figured maybe this is just the beginning. Well, World War I happens. And after World War I, in the early 20s, the Marxist philosophers started a school in Frankfurt, Germany, and they called it the Institute for Marxism. Little on the nose, I thought, but, you know, that's what they believe, so there they go. So they have the Institute for Marxism, and in the early 20s, they look around at the wreckage after World War I, and they say to themselves, what hasn't happened? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't the workers of the world rise up and bring about the workers' paradise that we all predicted? Why did it only happen in backwoods Russia? And these Marxists realized that those stupid, nasty, rotten, evil capitalists were providing such a good standard of living for the workers of the world that they didn't have any reason to revolt. Their standard of living was growing daily. Now, if I'm a Marxist and I look around and I see everybody getting richer and everybody living longer and everybody leading better lives, I'm going to stop being a Marxist and say, this is working, this capitalism thing, I was wrong about this. Look at all these benefits. Of course the people aren't in revolution. It's providing tremendous benefits for the working man. But these people don't think this way. This is their religion, you see. This is what they believe in their heart, and they're going to die with this belief. So they said, well, if the workers won't be the ones who are going to bring about the Marxist revolution, who is? Who's going to be the new vanguard of the revolution? Well, they were thinking about this in their little school in Frankfurt, and this philosophical group became known as the Frankfurt School. And I want to interject something here. I live in mortal fear of paranoid thinking. I am afraid of becoming a paranoid more than I am of just about anything else in the world. There's so much information out there that I absolutely am on guard against paranoid thinking. And I'm only saying that to tell you that there is nothing about what I'm saying here that is a theory. There's nothing about this that is schism. There's nothing about this that is speculative. This is the actual history of what happened. So these guys were in this in the Institute for Marxism, they called it the Frankfurt School because it was in Frankfurt. Well, many of these guys were Jewish, many of them weren't, but as the Nazis started to rise to power and started to become very anti-communist, they looked around and said, I don't really like the way the wind is blowing here, we need to get out of this town. We need to get out of here while we still can. So the Frankfurt School, the Marxist Institute, left Germany. Do you know where they went? They came to America. And they plunked themselves down at Columbia University in New York City. They're just they're a quarter mile away from where the Pulitzer Prize, the Columbia School of Journalism, is awarded. The Frankfurt School lived in Columbia University in the United States for about 20 years. About 5-10 years before World War II started, they wrote out the whole thing. And this is the part that goes through my heart. I'm perfectly okay to disagree with people. Disagreeing with people is what America's about. You have a perfect right to be a communist and a Marxist in this country. You have a right to believe whatever you want to believe in America. The genius of America is it's a reactor where all these different ideas are compressed together and bandied about, and the best answer wins, right? But the idea that people would flee from another country, flee for their lives, and take sanctuary in a country that gave them hope and gave them freedom and security, and then spend the next 30 years trying to bring that country down is intolerable to my sense of justice. It's intolerable to me. But that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So, in Columbia University, the Marxist, in the Marxist Institute, called the Frankfurt School now, decided to do this. They said, the workers are not going to rise up. It's not going to be them. Who can we get to launch this revolution? And they said, we're going to make it the dispossessed. We're going to make it the dispossessed. It's not going to be an economic revolution. It's not going to be a revolution against capitalism. That didn't work. Clearly didn't work. They failed. Their theory's wrong, so they started modifying the theory. So they said, instead of making it about the economy and having the workers be the new revolutionaries, we're going to switch it. We're going to make it about the culture. We're going to make it about the culture. And we're going to make the dispossessed be the revolutionaries. It's going to be the dispossessed. It's going to be the downtrodden. They're going to be the ones that we're going to appeal to in order to make this revolution work. What does that mean? Well, they developed something that they called critical theory. Critical theory is a product of the Marxist school, the Frankfurt School. And critical theory works like this. Their strategy was to say, what we'll do is we'll start to get professorships. First, we'll start with associate professorships, but then we'll get these people start at 19 or 20, they'll eventually become full professors, and we're going to teach something in school called critical theory. And critical theory works like this. Critical theory says, I'm going to go to black people, let's say, and I'm going to tell them that white America has stolen all of their labor, which to some degree was true. They weren't paid in the time prior to the Civil War in the South, but the cotton economy of the South was largely built on the black slaves, but that's not what they say to them. They basically say to them that while you were doing all of the work building America, white people were sitting on a porch sipping on juleps, and you are owed this. All right, so what they're doing is they're saying to black Americans, this government has treated you badly, and you are owed compensation. They do the exact same thing with Latinos, talk about how the United States stole the territory from them. They do the same thing with gays, with homosexuals. They tell them that this is the most repressive, homophobic society on the history of the earth. Meanwhile, on the rest of the planet, of course, in Islamic countries, they're killing homosexuals by crushing them under walls. But here in America, we're the most evil force of badness in the world. And they went around to every single one of these groups of people, and they told them that the main culture, that the dominant culture, our culture, was the villain, and that they had an obligation and a right to attack this culture, and they never, ever, ever had to provide a workable alternative. They never, ever had to do that, because if they did, they'd be sunk, right? So they tell the Indians, you've been exterminated, no one else has ever been treated as badly as the Indians in U.S. history, and they set up this constant attack from all different sides, this attack on the mainstream culture. And that's called critical theory, and it works. Because kids today graduating school, 20-year-old American kids think that this is the worst society in the world. And it worked. It worked. They did it. Okay, they convinced all of them that they live in the most evil, oppressive, unfair, just a horrible place. You see it all the time among 20-year-olds. So it worked. And then they did something else that's really important too that you need to understand. They said, okay, if we start pushing on this dominant culture, on this classical American culture, if we start attacking that culture, they're going to attack back. So what do we do? How do we defend ourselves against the counterattack? And they said, I know. We're going to come up with something, we're going to call it political correctness. Political correctness is how we're going to defend ourselves. Here's how political correctness works. Political correctness states that there are certain protected groups of people in America